The following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, what's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to Pushing the Limits. Thank you for joining us. We are everywhere. The Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network, my personal YouTube page at PTL Radio Show, also on X, on Twitch. We are all over the place. And of course, the FM AM dial, KSHP. Thank you so much for joining us. Man, we've got a lot to get to and a lot to go over today. We've got some very special guests that are going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. He's known as the Rush Limbaugh of the left, popular podcaster. Tony Michael is going to be joining us here in just a little bit. Coming up a little bit later on in the program, they're all walks of life and all sorts of different people that are worried about the future. They're worried about the next 4 years, right? So, coming up in hour number 2, the adult entertainment industry. There are people that are worried about the right-wing evangelical part of the Republican Party. Mike Johnsons of the world, right, that are anti-porn, anti-strip clubs, anti-anything, right, that has to do with celebrating one's body. So Nicole Mitchell and Courtney Tillia, they are both in that industry. They will be joining me a little bit later on in the program to discuss that. Before we get to our first guest, I do want to read this mass text for you, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more later on in the program. There are mass texts that are going out to African Americans in this country. And this is really hard to read, but I think it's important to read it. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about it later on in the show, because I've actually now talked to people personally that have received this text. It says, "Greetings, N-word." I'm not going to say the word on the air. "Greetings, N-word. Now that Trump is president, you've been selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation. Be ready at 12 a.m. November 13th. Sharp with your belongings. Our executive slaves will come get you in a U.S. ICE van. Be prepared to be searched down. Once you've entered the plantation, you are in Plantation Group A." Absolutely despicable, horrible. So I went to social media and I didn't accuse Donald Trump of doing this. I didn't even accuse one of his supporters. But what I did say was, why doesn't Donald Trump hold a press conference if he really wants to bring people together and say, hey, you know what? When I'm president, we're going to find out who did this and we're going to, put them behind bars or something to that effect. Why is it that MAGAs, like people on my social media today, say, oh, that was the left. That was one of you people. Instead of saying, gosh, this is horrible. Let's call this out. Let's find out who did this, and we shouldn't tolerate this as Americans. That's what a normal, decent person would say, right? That was my first reaction. My first reaction wasn't, oh, it's Donald Trump. Oh, it must be a MAGA. I mean, it might be. I don't know. But that's not what I said. I said, this is horrible. And I wish that Donald Trump would bring people together, which he won't. But I wish he would and make some statements. Go on Truth Social. Whoever's doing this is not a supporter of mine. I disavow. Now, he'll never do that. He didn't do that with the Proud Boys. He won't do that with David Duke. The man's not changing. But we'll talk more about this a little bit later on in the program. But to no avail, joining me right now, he is self-described as the Rush Limbaugh of the left. He's done this show before, and I really do enjoy his podcast. He does a really good job. Tony Michael from the Tony Michael podcast joining us right now on the show. Tony, good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me back on.
You got it. I want to start by just asking you a little bit of what I just started the show with, which is mass text, which I'm sure you've heard of. It's been sent to allegedly hundreds of thousands of people across the country that happen to be black. And I don't know who sent it out, right? You don't know who sent it out. The FBI's put out a comment saying they're investigating. Wouldn't it go a long way if some of these MAGA dopes and even somebody like a Donald Trump went on Truth Social and said, this is horrible, I disavow, but they're not doing that, are they?
We might get to the point, but all these are signals. All these are signs of what's to come. I want people to understand that there's going to be these little instances here and there as we march towards January 20th. And after January 20th, there's going to be little hints and signs as we go along. Another hint and sign to our credit is Jerome Powell yesterday was asked, will he step down if Donald Trump tells him to, and he said no, and then asked if there was a legal means that he believed that Trump could remove him. He said no. So that's a signal too. These are all signals. These are all signs of what is to come and how our country is going to change. Now, like you said, does it really matter who sent it? Does it really matter? The fact that we are in a position in our country, in our society, where this is even a reality is the thing that we should be talking about.
Yes.
I mean, should the people who are sending us be held accountable? Of course, just like the people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th should be and should have been held accountable, and they shouldn't be pardoned for that. The same way. But the discourse that we have to have is, why are we in this reality? What is causing us to be in this reality where this is a thing that is possible?
Yeah, let's talk about that. You know, I had Don Lemon on yesterday and Ron Filipowski, and we were talking about a lot of those same issues. I think I want to pick your brain on this.
Sure.
I think there are a lot of different reasons why Kamala Harris lost. Let's start with her first, and then you could tell me your thoughts on whether you agree or not. But I think she was put up against the 8 ball, only several months to make the case to the American people. I do put partial blame to Joe Biden, and I like Joe Biden. I thought he was a really good president. I have a lot of respect for him. But, you know, this decision needed to be made earlier, in my personal opinion. And, you know, there should have been primaries. I mean, there really should have been primaries. That's number two. Number three, the messaging. Instead of talking about Project 2025, maybe just take the direct quotes of Donald Trump's promises and the things he says. I think if they focused more on that, that would have resonated with the American people. And then we go to the other side of it. And I stand by what I always say, which is his base of supporters. Not everybody that voted for Donald Trump, but his base of supporters are mostly made up of uneducated, ill-informed people, many of them bigots, racist, and I'm sorry, just not good people for the country. That doesn't mean everybody that voted for Trump is like that, because I don't feel that way. But I think multiple reasons, and I'll start there and I'll let you take over. I don't know if you agree or not with that.
Well, I disagree with a lot of what you said. I think the idea that because we warned the country of what Project 2025 is, that didn't help is kind of ridiculous. And the reason why I say that is because next year, when they start to implement these things one by one, the country's going to learn, oh, it was serious. People were serious, because it is a serious plan. Now, I will say maybe we were late to the game on how to convey that message. And maybe that message was conveyed a little differently. But the reason why Kamala Harris lost, and let's get real here, is she's a woman.
I think that's a part of it. I don't disagree with you. Can I just go back to what you just said?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I don't have a problem, in my opinion, with bringing up Project 2025. That's not my issue. And listen, I'm with you in the fact that, listen, he might try to implement some of this stuff.
Right.
So I don't disagree with bringing it up, like what you said. I didn't have a problem with that. What I kind of had more of a problem of is, I don't think Harris and the Democrats conveyed what Donald Trump has actually said, like his direct quotes. He's going to end the Ukraine war in a day. I guess on January 21st, the war is going to be over. I mean, you know, tax credits on Social Security. I mean, the promises that he has made to the American people, he will not fulfill. I just wish he focused a little bit more on his actual quotes and statements. I don't mind bringing up Project 2025. It's scary. So I guess, you know, maybe we're somewhere in the middle there. I don't have a problem with her bringing it up.
Well, here's what I'll say to that is that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and the people around the campaign aren't the amplifier. They're not the media. All they can do is say these things. And I watched several videos. I posted several videos of Tim Walz actually saying the stuff that you're saying, of the stuff that he said, the stuff that he's done. And they would say it at rallies. They would say it at gatherings. He would say it in front of a microphone. Tim Walz did a really good job, I think, of articulating some of that stuff to what we would consider some of the normies out there. And what I mean by normies is like people who might actually vote for Donald Trump, and they had a chance to kind of sway that voter. What really happened was she's a woman, and this country does not want a woman to be a president of the United States.
I agree.
And those people didn't actually go because the votes that Trump has, he's got less votes now in this win than he had in his loss in 2020. How we lost this is people sat at home because she's a woman.
I think you might be right on that. I'm not discounting your opinion there, and I think
Sure.
we agree.
And I will say that I think there's more than one reason, but ultimately the top line reason of why this election swayed the way it did is because she's a woman.
Probably Hillary Clinton in 2016 as well. I mean, you could make the case there as well. I think.
Oh, I definitely could make the case.
Sure, absolutely. So I certainly I've talked about that. Listen, I think that's one of the main reasons. I no question. I agree with you there. But I also think that Joe Biden should have stepped aside earlier, and I thought that was a mistake. Now,
so that's the other thing that I kind of have a disagreement with you there on. Why would Joe Biden step aside as the president of the United States?
Well, okay, so here's the deal, right? He had alluded to before that he would be a one-term president. He had made statements alluding to that. So that would be my first case there. Number two, the main reason why he stepped down, in my opinion, I know obviously he was pressured by Nancy Pelosi and maybe Barack Obama, but he had a horrible debate. It was a terrible debate.
Sure.
And I think if he had a better debate, he might have still ran for office. Now, listen, he had a 40% approval rating. He was not going to defeat Donald Trump, in my opinion. I think she gave the Democrats the best chance in this situation. I just think there should have been a primary. I think they're probably, looking back on it, Monday morning quarterbacking, I like Kamala Harris. I think she's a wonderful woman. But I do think that the Gavin Newsoms of the world, or even picking Josh Shapiro as her VP nominee, would have given them a better chance to win. There should have been a primary. And I don't think 3 months, in my opinion, is enough time to make the case to the American people.
So let me ask you, because you bring up a primary, because there was a lot of talk when Joe Biden stepped aside to have some sort of like short primary or something. And a lot of people were worried about that. The other thing that people were worried about, and I think we're discounting in this conversation, is the Democratic base. To actually cast out the Democratic base, which is black people in this country, by the way. I want to point that out. That's the reason why those text messages that are being sent to black people aren't being sent by liberals. They're being sent by MAGA. Yeah. But the Democratic base in this country is black people. And the Democratic Party knows that. Joe Biden knows that better than anyone. That's actually how he became the president of the United States. If we want to do a little bit of history here, Joe Biden had no money and he was going to lose in Iowa in the 2020 primary. He went to South Carolina and won, and he won almost every state after that. He won almost all the black vote across the country. Mm-hmm. It's what made him win the nomination for the Democratic Party. Now, having said that, what you cannot do and what they could not do was skip Kamala Harris's vice presidential pick. And the reason why Harris was his vice president is because the Democratic base in this country is black people, and they wanted her to be vice president, and he obliged that, and he was very, 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 very empathetic to that, and he made that happen. And she was a good vice president. There was no reason for her not to be vice president. They could say border czar and all that nonsense, but at the end of the day, she did her job and she did it well. Now, you could make the argument here, and I think I can make the argument, that if Joe Biden would have stayed in the race as opposed to leave when he was forced out by billionaires and whoever it was, billionaires, maybe the money that were scared, he would have won. I think he would have beat Trump actually on Tuesday.
But he had a 40% approval rating, though.
I don't think that matters.
You don't think that? Okay. Well, I mean,
what was Donald Trump's approval rating in the country on Tuesday?
Pretty low as well. So that's a valid point. Listen, I guess the hard part here is, we just don't know, right? We can. We
can do this Monday morning quarterbacking stuff all day long. But at the end of the day, kind of what matters is what goes forward. But I believe that there is a lot of reasons why we're in the situation that we're in. But the main reason why we're in the situation that we're in is us as Americans are unwilling to really know the actual hard, harsh truth. And that is the most difficult thing to try to jump the hurdle here to get to a position where we can defend democracy and hopefully save it. I think our democracy as we know it is gone.
I hope not. I think we share the same worries, and let's go through those.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about Donald Trump and his upcoming administration, which I think will be, quite frankly, scary. We're going to have the Stephen Millers back in there. Who knows if Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro could be in there. Vivek Ramaswamy. We have Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's going to be in charge of our health and telling us what to do with our bodies. I mean, are you kidding me? I've even heard rumblings of maybe a Laura Loomer being the communications director. I think Caroline Leavitt will probably be the communications director. She's a talking head for Donald Trump. She's been on this show before. But, I think about all of Tony, I think about, and this is hard for me to talk about because I feel for these people, as I know you do, people in this country that are undocumented. I'm not talking about people that have committed serious crimes when they're here. We don't want those people here. But there are so many millions and millions of people in this country that have been here for years. They pay their taxes. They might mow your lawn. They cook your food. These are hardworking people with children, with families. And Donald Trump, he said he wants to deport all these people. Now, do I think he will? I don't know. I hope not. But there's a lot of people in this country that are scared. Undocumented immigrants, women, they don't know whether abortion is going to be illegal across the country. It's already illegal in, I think, 20 states. In some of those states, no exceptions for rape or incest. Even members of the media and journalists. I mean, I'm not really worried. I'm going to continue to do my thing. You're going to continue to do your thing. But listen, going after, with our own military, Americans. So there's a lot of people in this country, Tony, that's my point, that are very worried. What would
Absolutely.
you say?
Well, I have personal friends that sent messages the morning after saying because of their status here that they were considering, going to another country. But let's start with the migrants first.
Okay.
And the demonizing and dehumanizing migrants in this country. And I am a white person. And I'm from Missouri. I'm from the Ozarks in Missouri. That's why I sound like I do. It's why I kind of look like I do. And a lot of people think I'm MAGA at first blow. But here's the thing. I want to speak to all the white people out there that might sound or look like me if you're listening in parts of this country. The reason why you go to the burger joint and there's lettuce and tomato on your burger, and the reason why there's a hamburger and it's healthy, it's inspected, is because of migrants and because of the government that we make up. We are the government that we protect. I find it very interesting that we could talk all day about the cruelty and the brutality of deporting what he says 30 million people, which I think by any good estimate, there's about 12 to 13 million of undocumented people here.
Sure.
And a lot of them are of Mexican or South American descent, but a lot of them are not. A lot of them look like me or you because they overstayed their visa or for whatever reason. But the thing is, laying the cruelty and the brutality aside, just the economic ramifications of deporting 30 million people in our country is going to be catastrophic.
Yeah.
The grocery stores will be empty. Your restaurants will not be able to serve food. They will close down early.
Horrible for the economy.
Right.
Horrible.
Right. But I want to give people a secondary imagination here of this because we know who Trump is, right? We've watched him. We know who he is. This is not something that we have to guess on. The guy got into a garbage man costume and climbed into a trash truck. He pretended to work at McDonald's for 15 minutes. And I was really surprised. I was really surprised about that, but it kind of worked. But he is a reality TV star. He is producing WrestleMania in real life here for our country. Now, having said that, there is a possibility, especially with Susie Wiles as his chief of staff now that we know, and she's kind of the director of the WrestleMania and real life here. There is a possibility, there is a reality alternate to the brutal and the cruel reality of deporting 30 million, is that Donald Trump could lie. Because Donald Trump lies like we breathe, right? It is a very, 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 very part of his personality. Now, here's what I'll say, is that there is a chance that Donald Trump does what he did in his first administration, but he does it a little differently. Donald Trump in his first administration, if anyone is aware, he did a lot of workplace ICE raids. What that means is it's easier to get a hold of undocumented workers when they're all collectively in one place that it would be is a workplace where they are all working because they provide labor to our country, which comes to your kitchen table and your plate. Right. Now, he didn't really advertise these. He didn't put a lot of media around it. He didn't be like, yeah, I'm rounding up the brown people. He didn't do that, but he can this time. He can this time,
Can
and
I
he can
just
lie
add one
about it.
thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Add one thing to what you're saying, because I agree with everything you've just said. What's scary to me, there's a lot of things that are scary to me about this upcoming administration. But Tony, what's scary to me, and you alluded to that a little bit, is he's going to have nobody telling him he can't do anything. He's going to have free reign to pretty much do whatever he wants to do. He's going to have immunity. We know the way the Supreme Court decided in that case. He's not going to have anybody around him that say, no, Mr. President, that's not a good idea. Now, he did have a few people around him in his first administration that have since spoken at the DNC. They have not endorsed him, or they voted for Kamala Harris. But that's what really worries me more about this upcoming administration. He's going to have no parameters, no rule of law, for lack of a better term, and he's going to be able to do whatever he wants. And that's really scary to me, Tony.
Well, and I think more scary to me is that people around him won't have guardrails, because he won't have guardrails. Because let's face it, he's lazy. He doesn't like to work. We all know this. He doesn't like hard work. He doesn't like hard things. He doesn't want to be held accountable. So deporting 30 million people. Okay. And I want to give you a sense of this. Over a 4-year period, if he stays in for 4 years and not longer, Donald Trump would have to deport 20,000 people every single day for those entire 4 years. 20,000 people a day.
Impossible.
Well, you might say impossible, but it is, even if it were to be possible, Ryan, it is really hard work. It is something that Donald Trump does not do, is really hard work. He does not work hard. He avoids work. He avoids working hard. It is absolutely something that he does not do. So Donald Trump's personality traits that he possesses, that we know he possesses, might be the one thing that stalls and obstructs the ability for Project 2025 to come to fruition. And the reason why is because he's not going to want to work that hard. So it's going to take longer to accomplish these things, unless he unleashes that immunity to his lieutenants and to his stormtroopers.
That makes sense to me. And, the thing that worries me the most, like I said, is the fact that, you're right. He's going to have people around him as well that are going to be able to pretty much have free reign to do whatever they want. But the unseriousness, for lack of a better term, of the people that are going to be around him. I mentioned RFK Jr. and others. Who knows if Laura Loomer will even get a job within his administration. But there's going to be a lot of Looney Tunes. There's going to be a lot of wacky people. It's going to be a clown show. And I really do think that's very dangerous for the country. And all he cares about is loyalty, right? Right, Tony? He doesn't care about experience, resume, who can help him in this area or that area for the good of the country. All he cares about is one thing, and that is loyalty. I
actually don't believe that anymore. If you want
really?
Well, I think the one thing that he desires most is apathy towards him, right? That's what he wants. He wants people. That's right. He wants people to stroke his ego. That's all he wants. If you're against him at one point and now you're with him, I mean, him and Bannon have been back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Yeah. And it's not about whether you like Trump or he likes you or he's loyal to you or you're loyal to him. It's about in the moment right now, as we speak, in this current second, are you going to bend your knee? And if you're going to bend your knee in this second, he will love you. Another instance is Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia.
Yeah.
He really did not like Brian Kemp for a long time. And then when he needed Brian Kemp to back him in Georgia so he could win Georgia, which he did, then he kind of bent the knee to Brian Kemp and gave him the ability to be unloyal. And it's same way with Larry Hogan in Maryland, even though Larry Hogan lost that race and Brian Kemp, won his race, but Trump won Georgia and didn't win Maryland. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I don't think it's lifelong loyalty that this guy desires.
It's just in the moment.
He doesn't think past his nose. And again, that might be our advantage here. It might be our disadvantage here in some sense. So we just have to take each moment and each signal one at a time to know where we're going to be.
Understood. Now, I think it's fair to say that you lean further to the left than I do. I'm a registered independent.
Sure.
But, I voted for 8 Republicans in the midterms. And I made a mistake, and I did not vote for Hillary. I didn't vote for Trump either, and I made a mistake, and I own it. I didn't vote for Barack Obama. The reason why I didn't vote for Barack Obama or Mitt Romney or John McCain is I think Mitt Romney would have been a decent president. I think John McCain would have been a decent president. Wasn't a fan of Sarah Palin, but I think McCain, good, honorable man, he would have been a decent president. So the reason why I ask you that question is because I do have some criticism for Democrats. Now, listen, people can talk all day about policy. To me, it's not an excuse to vote for Donald Trump. I think we would agree on that. The hatred, the bigotry, the liable sexual abuse, the 34 felons, the things he says on it. We agree on Donald Trump. Despicable. Right. I would vote for a ham sandwich over Donald Trump. And Kamala Harris is a decent, good woman with a nice family. I'm so glad I got the opportunity to meet her, and nice people. Tim Walz, normal guy, decent guy. With that all being said, there are a few criticisms I have for the left.
Okay.
I think Republicans talk about this way too much. And I think most Democrats would agree with me. We got to stop people that are born men competing with women on the playing field. I want transgenders to be who they are. I support them. I also support the LGBT community. And we know all the attacks from the far right, bigotry, hatred. All that being said, can we just stop this nonsense? Okay, if you're born a man, you should not be allowed to compete with women at the high school level, at the college level. And I just think it gives Republicans an opportunity to attack, right? And I mean, let's just start there. Listen, we know Trump's a liar. Kids aren't being dropped off at school and then coming home a different sex. It's a lie, but a lot of these MAGA Republicans don't care. But there are Democrats out there that are okay with this, and I just wish they would answer the question directly and say, no, if you're born a man, you shouldn't be competing with women.
Okay, so I actually believe that if our country would have been in a position in which we were not to have a conversation about trans people, I actually believe that this subject about trans people being in sports to be the one that national discourse where we could actually come together and have a conversation, have national discourse about to unscare ourselves of trans people, right? Because we have this national fear, and it is built out of bigotry and lies and propaganda from the right.
And but Tony, but to be fair, Tony, and I think you know this about me, I'm not afraid of I embrace.
No. And again, what I'm saying is this conversation about the sports, is a place that society can have a conversation. Now, I am on the opposite side of you. I believe that trans people can be in sports. I think that's ridiculous.
Really?
That trans people cannot be in sports. Well, I think it's but I want to say that the conversation itself is the most important part of it. And the reason why is because if we would have the conversation in a specific way and not dehumanizing trans people, that's where we would be.
I agree with you. And any dehumanization of the trans community is, we agree 150% on that. Let me just make my case and I'll be specific.
Sure.
Lia Thomas, as a man, and by the way, she didn't have the surgery, but to me, that's irrelevant. As a man competing as a swimmer, he was ranked as a man 430th in the country, something along those lines. Then identifying as a woman, he was all of a sudden number one in the country. So how can you make the case that it's not an enormous advantage and unfair to women, at least in this situation, that Lia Thomas competes as a swimmer against born women?
So let me ask you, what is the distance between when Lia Thomas, as you said, she as a man was the 400th and something, right? And then what
my understanding is it was a few years prior.
Okay, so what you're saying is he didn't just identify as Lia Thomas just to become a woman swimmer, is what you're saying.
I'm not willing to go that far because I don't know. Here's what I do know.
Okay.
He was, when identifying as a man, I'm trying to be respectful here, and I know you will as well, was not even close to the top 100 as a man, as a swimmer. And then all of a sudden, we're led to believe that it wasn't an advantage when all of a sudden he became a she, or identified as a she, and became number one.
Well, she is a woman.
And that's fine. I'll define Lia Thomas as a woman, but I don't think Lia Thomas should be competing with other women in college sports, because I think it's unfair to women that are born women. I think it's very unfair.
Okay, so let me ask you again. So do you believe that Lia Thomas changed how they identify just to win?
Okay, so I'll answer that and say I don't know, but I will also say it shouldn't, in my opinion, it shouldn't matter. What matters to me, no matter what their objective is, or whether they're not doing it so they can be the best female swimmer in the world, to me, it doesn't matter. What matters is the women that are competing, that were born women, competing against somebody that was born a man, who has, in my personal opinion, huge advantages, as far as strength. For example, you wouldn't allow someone born a man to compete with women on the LPGA tour. Why? Because most men, professional golfers, born men, hit the golf ball a lot further. It's why the golf courses are much easier for the women. You wouldn't allow somebody born a man to compete in the WNBA, born a man, because most men are stronger and faster than women on the basketball court. You wouldn't allow somebody who's born a man playing, professional hockey, competing with women. You wouldn't allow a man, or shouldn't allow a man that was born a man transitioning to a woman to be in the ring with, professional female boxers that were born women. I just think track and field is another example. Baseball, whatever, you name it. And here's my final argument on this issue. Why is it, if it's not an unfair advantage, why is it that people that are born women transitioning to men are not competing with men in professional or college sports? We don't hear about it happening. Why? Because if you're born a woman, transitioning to a man, it's not going to give you the unfair advantage competing with other men, no matter how much testosterone you put in your body. On the flip side, if you're born a man transitioning to a woman, you're still going to have unfair advantages.
So let me ask you, would you be vehemently opposed to a woman playing in the NFL?
No, if she can, absolutely not, because I don't think it's an advantage if you're a woman competing with men. If a woman could be a kicker or any position, and she can compete at that level, which I don't believe, I think it'd be a very rare circumstance, then I give her all the credit in the world. Go ahead and do it. But that's a different circumstance, right? I don't think it's an advantage for a woman to compete with men. I do believe a naturally born man.
What if she's really fast? What if she's one of the fastest people on earth?
What if she's, well,
what if she's really fast? What if she runs really fast? There's a lot of women that run really fast. There's a lot of women that run faster than running backs in the NFL.
Well, there's a reason why, though, they're not in the NFL, because they're not as strong and they're not as fast as we're not.
So what if there was a woman? What if there was a woman who could compete in the speed that a running back could compete?
Okay, let me respond to that and say, what
if she could outcompete a running back? What if she, you know what? I see your point. I would not want a woman to go into a man's league and be able to outcompete them if she was faster than they were.
Well,
you're right. You're right. That would probably be a disadvantage of a woman who is much faster than men.
Okay, but we're not talking about people like you and me, right? There's plenty of, I played not professional, but I played college golf, right?
Mm-hmm.
LPGA golfers would kick my ass, but we're not talking about amateur athletes.
So you're saying there's not a woman out there in sports that is faster than some of the wide receivers or running backs in the NFL?
Well, I'll answer it by saying this. If in fact NFL owners and general managers thought that there were women out there that could make their football team better, they already would have been signed, and it would have been great publicity, and it would have been great. There's a reason why it's literally never happened in the NFL. Because they don't believe it will help their football team. It's just the reality of the situation. If what you're saying would come to fruition, it would have already happened. The reason why it hasn't happened in the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, any of the
because of the broligarchy, right?
I don't think it's broligarchy. I really believe that if there was a woman out there and there was a general manager and an owner of a football team that thought that a woman could make their football team better, then I would be great. I'd be all for it. But again, we're going back to, someone who's born a woman.
Well, why can't a woman be a quarterback too? A quarterback doesn't have to run that fast. You could have I've met a woman that was 6'4". She had the structure of a man because maybe she had the Y chromosome.
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So Serena Williams is arguably the best female tennis player of all time. By the way, love women's tennis. I think it's a great product, right?
Sure.
Serena Williams played a man because they were that I think was ranked 410th in the world. 410. The reason why they did this is because John McEnroe made some statements that some call controversial. I agreed with them that, there's no professional female tennis player that could beat a top 500 male player. So they played 2 sets and Serena Williams lost 6-1, 6-1. Now let me repeat, the best female tennis player of all time. Why? Because the men serve the ball harder. They're faster. They're stronger. I'm talking about professional athletes. not amateurs, even though I don't agree with somebody born a man, transitioned to a woman, competing at the D1 college level.
But why did we wait? Why did we allow her to play him? Because she's much weaker than him. Why would we do that? Why, as a society, would we allow her? And why would we allow him? He's wait. He's much stronger. He's much faster. He can compete on a higher level. Why would we do that? Why would we allow a society, a man, to compete against a woman? That sounds like the opposite of what you were saying earlier.
No. So the reason why, and by the way, it wasn't a sanctioned match. It wasn't for prize money. It wasn't in a
okay. So as long as there's nothing at stake, then women can compete with men and men can compete with women.
No, because in a tennis match, nobody's going to be physically harmed. There's a difference between a man and a woman competing. Well, listen to what I say.
What about swimming? Swimming, you're physically harmed. That's not a contact sport.
Right, but
that's the argument you made earlier was about swimming. It's a contact sport. So how is she gonna? How are those female swimmers gonna get hurt if a trans woman is a swimmer and they're swimming in separate lanes? See, again, I love the discourse and I love the conversation, but I want to stay on track here.
Well, Tony, the reason is if you want to talk about women's safety, that's a different issue. Okay.
No, I didn't bring up the safety. You brought up the safety.
Okay, but we are just specifically talking about competing at a level. Now, if you want to talk about safety, yeah, of course we could talk about the UFC, boxing, the NFL, the NBA. Physical.
Well, I mean, if we're going to talk about safety in the UFC, I think we would get rid of the sport altogether.
Well, okay, that's another argument. But I understand. Listen, I'm not a UFC fan. I'm saying there's a different argument. What I'm talking about are two different things. In some cases, safety for the women. In every case, what is fair? It's unfair to make the case that if you're born a man, in my opinion, that it's not an advantage, even if you've transitioned over, to compete against women on the playing field or the tennis court. Yes, in some of those sports that are contact sports, I think it can be dangerous to the women.
What about a woman who has a broken Y chromosome like the Algerian boxer in the Olympics?
So that woman was proven, and the Kremlin, I know, which I'm sure you and I don't trust, made the case that no, that's a man, not a man.
Wait a second. Even though she's not a man, she's got a biological advantage. It's unfair. It's unfair.
So that test was according to the Kremlin, which I don't believe, by the way. I would go back to that situation. That person was born a woman.
I know that.
Yeah, that person also has lost more matches than they've won. That is not a man. So and you and I both agree on this. There's a lot of attacks on the far right, and I thought that was horrible, by the way. Horrible attacks on this poor woman who won a medal, and I thought it was great. I felt horrible for her, but that's a woman.
So you're saying as long as a person is born with a certain genitalia, then what you're saying is that leads you to believe that there would be fair or unfairness because she did have the a disorder of the chromosome, whatever. And listen. I am a cisgender man. I do not know a lot of science around trans people. Right. I respect their decision to be trans people, and I respect their decision to want to participate in sports, whatever the reason may be. But in this instance, again, we are wading in waters. We are wading in waters that are good conversations, and I actually, this conversation that we're having right now, if this country would have been having these conversations about trans people when the hatred and the bigotry started, I think it would actually humanize them and people would be less afraid.
I agree. Listen, let me be very clear on this. And I think anybody that listens to this show knows where I stand on this issue. I feel for trans people. I want them to be happy. I want them to do what they want with their bodies so long as it's legal. I want them to be treated as equals. I treat them as equals. I know trans people.
Just not in sports.
Well, because they're not equals on the playing field when it comes to physicality.
So they're not equal.
So let me ask you a question then. No, I don't. When it comes to the physicalness of competing against women, no, I don't. Are you okay with someone born a man, transition to a woman, getting into the boxing ring with someone who's a naturally born woman? You're okay with that? You're okay with people who are born men transition to women competing in the WNBA? It would change sport altogether. You're okay with that? You don't think that's a danger?
So am I okay with the consensual and I mean, these, you're talking about people choosing to be in sports. NFL players all the time choose to be in sports and choose to retire for different reasons. Some of them being safety, some of them being the safety of their brain. There's been a lot of NFL players retire earlier than they are used to, and the reason why is because they're a little iffy about the brain injury and CTE, and they've chosen to retire. So you're saying that the women competing in the ring against this trans woman, you're saying that they're okay with it. They want to compete. They want to compete, and they want
a lot
to
of people are not. A lot of people in sports.
So why are they in the sports?
What do you mean? Why
are they in the sport? I mean, there's a lot of people that retire from the NFL because they're not okay with getting their skull smashed in and having brain injury, so they retire and they're not in the sport anymore.
Well, I think I don't speak for all those people, but I would assume that a lot of those people feel like if they're in the ring with somebody that and they have an unfair advantage over them, that same thing in any other sport. Let me ask you this in closing here on this topic.
Sure.
Do you think
I know you're probably running out of time, but
yeah, we are, but it's a good conversation.
No, it's the perfect conversation to have.
Sure. So in regards, going back to Lia Thomas, do you think it's just a coincidence that she was over 400th in the country as a college Division I male swimmer, and then transitioning to a woman, she all of a sudden becomes the #1 female swimmer of all time? Is that just a coincidence?
I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, just like you don't know if that's the reason why she transitioned.
But hold on. I hear what you're saying. In this conversation or in this question, at least in my opinion, it shouldn't matter what her reasoning is. What matters is she transitioned to a woman, regardless of what her reasoning was, and she went from over 400th in the country as a man to #1 in the country as a woman. And my question is, regardless of what her reasoning was, because we both don't know, is that just a coincidence? Did she just really work hard over the summer?
Again, just like you said, you don't know if she transitioned to do that. I don't know. I do not know what the coincidence or the circumstances would be. What I will tell you is that there are trans women competing in women's sports and women's activities. One of them is Caitlyn Jenner. Mm-hmm. And Caitlyn Jenner competes in a lot of golf matches, a lot of golf competitions. They're not sanctioned or professional, right, but she's still doing it.
Right, but Caitlyn Jenner is not competing on the LPGA tour. Caitlyn Jenner is not a professional.
But she's not good enough, right?
Well, Caitlyn. First of all, Caitlyn Jenner.
She should be, because she was a man at one time. She was actually an Olympic athlete. She was actually an Olympic athlete.
Just because you're an Olympic athlete doesn't mean you're going to shoot a 65 on the golf course. I played Division I college golf, and
wait. She has a much bigger unfair advantage because she is stronger, bigger, and faster.
Compared to the average woman. Yes, Caitlyn Jenner does, but we're not talking about a casual round of golf.
I think the problem here. that a lot of people have with this discussion about sports is that it's not singular, right? Because you'll make one argument about one sport, and I try to make the argument about another sport, and you say, no, it's not the same.
Let me ask you a question then. Let me ask you, since we're talking about golf. If LPGA golfers could compete on the PGA Tour, where the prize money is 20 times as high, you could look that up. Why hasn't an LPGA player ever made the cut? They've had over 10 opportunities. If they're making more money on the PGA Tour, if WNBA players could make 100 times more money in the NBA, then why aren't they playing in the NBA? Why aren't they playing on the PGA Tour? By the way, there have been almost a dozen instances of LPGA players that played in men's tournaments that have all been unable to make the cut on the PGA Tour. Why? Because there are advantages of being a male professional golfer compared to being a female professional golfer. Surely you'll give me that, right? Women have had the opportunity to play on the PGA Tour.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna talk about inequity in markets and what the market value is of one sport to another, because you have the same situation in women's soccer where they were getting paid pittance compared to the men that were playing, and they were playing at higher levels in their league.
They lost to a JV boys soccer team in a
again. See, this is the thing: is why were those women allowed to play against men?
I'll tell you why.
No. That is unequal. That is unfair. No, and you should not use that statistic because it's an unfair match. It's an unfair match.
I have a great example. I'll tell you why.
Yeah, go ahead.
WNBA basketball team, the Las Vegas Aces,
Right.
and the UConn women's basketball team. I used to watch the practices with Gino Ariano.
Right.
They would scrimmage against amateur college men. Why? Because it's physically demanding, and even though those men aren't professionals or Division I college
It
athletes,
should be illegal. It should be banned because they're two different genders competing. Now, here I want to close with this. I
didn't say they can't compete.
How much time you got left? Because
a couple more minutes. Correct.
Okay. Well, the reason why is because I want to make this point, and because I think we will, even though we disagree on certain issues here, I think we will agree on something broader.
Yeah.
And what that is that we are cisgendered men, and we are not women. We are not trans people. And until we can figure out that we need to bring women and trans people into these conversations, and they need to have these conversations with us, because trans people are going to be able to, and that is the fair conversation, because I'm sitting here defending my position, and my position is I think that there is a place for trans people in sports.
I never said there wasn't. That's
right. And again, that is my position, and I am. There
should be a place for trans people in sports. Right, I completely agree with you, but that's a different conversation.
Right. But what I want to make the point is that this country has to get in a place where we can have conversations, just like the women's issue with bodily autonomy, men boxing out women to talk about those women's issues, and them knowing
you're not going to hear an argument from
the same reason why I would say that the biggest arguing back and forth that should happen in trans sports is athletes and trans people, and the reason why is because they know themselves, and maybe we as a society can learn a little bit about them and a little bit about what their experiences are, because my experience is so far from a trans person that's not even funny.
Sure. I mean, listen, most of the trans people that I've talked to, not all. Listen, maybe I've talked to maybe a dozen, and they've told me that they understand where I'm coming from and they agree. But at the same time, we should have trans people allowed to compete in sports in some facet. I don't know whether that would be a league with all trans. I don't know.
Right. It is a difficult subject to wade in. Right. I mean,
I want everybody to have the opportunity to enjoy life, be who they are, have fun. I just want it to be fair for everybody. I want everyone to be treated fairly. And if a woman, I want to be very clear on this, if a naturally born woman or even a trans woman is skilled enough as an athlete, I don't care what sport it is, where they can compete and they're good enough to be a professional athlete with men, I want to be very clear. I am all for it. We just haven't seen it yet. And I think that if the only reasoning behind it, in your opinion, is, well, they just, the men don't want it to happen.
I mean, I don't know what the markability is. What I'm trying to say is that.
Great. Are you kidding me? I think I'm
trying to advance the conversation that there is a little bit of blurred lines here, and there is gray area. It's not black and white.
I hear you, and you're not, and I'm not involved in the conversations like so many on the far right are, with attacking the trans community. Right. And the bigotry and the hatred. And I think that's an important place to start and finish.
Absolutely. I think that's why I said that this conversation, if this conversation would have been had years ago in a very distinct discourse in this country, I think we wouldn't demonize trans people in the LGBTQ community like so many do.
That's where 100% we agree on. Any sort of language like that, attacking people because they're what's between their legs or what their sexuality is, disgrace. And we know where most of that is coming from, and it ain't coming from the left.
Absolutely,
it's coming from the right, and that's exactly where we agree upon. Tony, it's a great conversation.
I'm glad we had this conversation.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you had me on, and I'll come back anytime you need me to.
Thanks, man. And I love your podcast, by the way.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Yep. Every single weekday, I do it Monday through Friday, 2 full hours. It airs on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, just like you, 2 full hours every single weekday. The Tony Michaels Podcast. So just Google it or go to YouTube and type in Tony Michaels or Tony Michaels Podcast, or go to thetonymichaels.com. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
Appreciate the time, my friend. Thank you so much. That's Tony Michaels, everybody. By the way, I had no idea that conversation was going to go in that direction. It did. I thought it was a good conversation, hopefully a productive one. Obviously, we disagree on some things, but I know Tony's a great guy. And we both agree, nobody should be attacked or for any reason like sexuality or whether you're transgender. We just happen to disagree on what I believe is an advantage for people that are naturally born a man competing with women. All right, so here's what we are going to do. We are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll continue the conversation on the other side. I want to talk about this masked text message that was sent to so many African Americans across the country. Donald Trump's name is in it. Who do we blame for it? We'll talk about that when we come back. Also, check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. We sell merchandise up there, shirts, hats, beanies, you name it. We sell it up there on the website, pushingthelimits.live. We're an independently owned show, so we appreciate your support. Also, check out the donate button right on the front page, pushingthelimits.live. The official gaming bar of the Pushing the Limits radio show is Jackson's Bar and Grill. I was out there. I played yesterday. Had a lot of fun. Went out there with some friends. Great food, great atmosphere. Man, did I have a great steak out there at Jackson's Bar and Grill. And they've got some great promotions, including every Monday and Wednesday. If you earn at least 300 points, you are going to get a free bottle of wine, plus the Pass the Puck contest. Check them out. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones, and tell them that I sent you. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll talk a little bit about that conversation on transgenders. We'll also talk a little bit about this mass text message that was sent out. And we got some two very special guests joining us in hour number 2, Nicole Mitchell and Courtney Tillia. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits. Thank you so much for joining us. We will get to some calls here in just a few minutes. This will probably be the only segment where we'll be taking calls today, so now would be the time to call in at 702-221-7283. Just had a conversation with Tony Michael from the Tony Michael podcast, and we talked a lot about transgenders in sports, and it's one of the criticisms I do have for people on the left. I don't think it's fair. I think most of the country agrees with me, but we'll get your thoughts on that. All right, so I want to start off by talking about this topic. Black people all across the country had to deal with a really nasty text message they got, and thousands of people across the country had to read this. I want to be very clear. I don't know where these text messages came from, but I'm going to read it for you verbatim. And I am not going to say the N-word. I never have said the N-word in my life, and I'm not going to start now, because I think it's one of the most disgusting, repugnant words you can say to anybody. Greetings, N-word. Now that Trump is president, you have been selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation. Be ready at 12 a.m. November 13th. Sharp with your belongings. Our executive slaves will come get you in a U.S. ICE van. Be prepared to be searched down once you've entered the plantation. You are in a plantation Group A. It's hard for me to read that because it's so horrible. And I feel horrible for the people in this country that happen to be black, that had to read that text message. It's very disheartening. And whoever did this, the person or persons who did this, I hope get locked up because it's terrible and it shouldn't be tolerated. So I went to social media today and I talked about it and I said, man, wouldn't it be a great thing if all these MAGA people and Donald Trump even held a press conference or even went on Truth Social, and on Truth Social said how horrible these statements were and that he disavows and that none of his supporters would ever talk like this, even though I would argue that some of them do, but just disavow and say we want to hold the people accountable. Just even a Truth Social tweet, I think, would go a long way. He's not going to do that. And proof that some of his MAGA supporters aren't going to do it either. When I went to social media and I put up a video today, and I didn't accuse Donald Trump of doing this. In fact, I didn't even accuse one of his supporters of doing this because I don't know. It shouldn't matter whether it's an R or a D next to your name. We all need to call out hatred and bigotry. And if you're not willing to do that, or you just want to blame one side for it, then you're part of the problem. And I had somebody who's done this show before go on social media and say it was one of your people that did this. Didn't say, gosh, this is horrible. Didn't say these statements are terrible. They're racist. They're bigoted. I'm so sorry. We need to find out who did this. Hold them to account. Went straight to blaming one side of the aisle. And it's wrong. And it's disgusting. But Donald Trump won't disavow. He won't put out a tweet today or something on Truth Social saying something about this. He'll ignore it. And that's my point. There's plenty of people that I've spoken to today. They didn't even bring up Donald Trump. They didn't bring up the right. They just said this is awful. We all need to condemn it. Why are so many MAGA supporters not condemning this? Why are they blaming the left? I don't care who did this. You could have a lefty liberal or a right-wing evangelical. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is, number one, whoever did this held to account. Number two, we all call it out as Americans. How are we going to come together as Americans when you keep blaming the left for something like this with, by the way, no evidence to prove it? Can we stop doing that as Americans? Can the MAGA supporters stop doing that? It would mean the world if Trump went on Truth Social or held a press conference about this and said we are going to hold these people to account. I guarantee you, 100%, he won't do that. Ask yourself why, and then get back to me. Number to call, 702-221-7283. And again, that number if you want to join the show, 702-221-7283. Let's start with Courtney. Courtney is first up on PTL. Hi, Courtney.
Hey, how you doing? It's Courtney in Brooklyn, Brian. I have to say, I spent a day and a half crying, but now I feel like people are going to F around and find out. For any Hispanic men to have voted for this man when he's talking about mass deporting them, any black men voting for him when he's talking about total immunity to kill them, any women when he's a rapist and taking away everybody's rights. At this point, I'm checking out and I'm not even watching any news or anything because it's just going to be a horror show.
You know, there's a lot of people. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and finish. Go ahead.
On the transgendered issue, I 100% agree with you. I think that we as Democrats just let that issue just be too crazy. I mean, with the pronouns, all that was all really stupid and just really kind of.
Can I add to that? Yeah, I want to add something to that. And I know that Republicans want to ask the stupid question, can you define what a woman or a man is? Listen, it's a stupid question, but let me be very clear on this, and you could tell me whether you agree or not. And it shouldn't be the most important issue or even a question that people should ask. But, you know, I've been asked this question before. To me, it's very simple. In my personal opinion, if you're born a man, you're a man. If you're born a woman, you're a woman. However, if somebody is transgender and they want to be called a woman or a man, regardless of what my personal beliefs might be, I will call them what they want to be called out of respect because it doesn't affect me and I don't care. I'll call them what they want. I don't care. Do I think Jenner's a man? Yes. But if he identifies as a woman and he wants to be called a woman, no problem. I'll call him or her. It doesn't affect me at all. And this shouldn't be any of the top 30 issues that we have as Americans. And it's a stupid question that these people on the far right ask. So just answer it. I just wish people would just be upfront about this, you know?
No, I agree with you there. I just think that a lot of times, though, we just kind of for example, when Obama signed the whole transgender toilet thing, right. I mean, over signing rights for black people not to be killed by police. I mean, right. The transgender community and the truly transgendered people are about 1%.
Right.
There's
Correct.
a big difference between cross-dressing and being actually born
don't even get me started.
transgender.
Don't even get me started with that kind of stupidity, but you're absolutely right. Oh, that drives me nuts. Thank you so much for the call. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Ron. Ron is next up on PTL. Hi, Ron.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Yeah, I have a couple of things to say. First off, I think, and a lot of people have already said this, the reason that we on the left, and I'm a Democrat, I think lose in some regards is because we just focus on the wrong things. And
Sometimes I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with your position on this exactly. But, yeah, we just get lost in the weeds. And,
we do sometimes. Yep.
the right takes advantage of it. And
they do.
It just really makes us lose. The other thing I want to say is, I think part of the reason that Kamala lost and Democrats lose is that the Democrats have lost the economic issue. We don't support unions enough. I remember when, steel workers could shut the whole country down by going on strike. They no longer have power.
Well,
they
but
no
I
longer
think
have ownership.
so. I hear you, and I hear the point that you're trying to make, my friend. My frustration with that is look at where the economy's at now, and look at the economy the last 20, 25 years, and it seems like a Republican is always effing up the economy, and the next president, if in fact a Democrat, is always cleaning up the pieces. Let's look at that. Bill Clinton did it. Barack Obama did it. Joe Biden did it. And now I believe the next Democrat president is going to have to do the exact same thing. I think we need to focus on the fact that Joe Biden economically did a phenomenal job. When you look at inflation under 3%, when you look at unemployment at 4%, when you look at how your 401k is doing in the NASDAQ, records. So I think that's important to note. And I don't root for the America to not succeed. I want America to succeed. I just don't think Donald Trump is going to do a good job. And I will call it out every day as I see it. Let's go to Lucas. Lucas is next up on PTL. Hi, Lucas.
Hi, Brian. This is Luke from Arkansas. And I wanted to talk about what appears to be a very obvious discrepancy in voter turnout. So all sources report record early voting, as well as you can look at the Washington Post's information about voter turnout. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin all had near or record turnout on election day. But somehow, as of 1:25 p.m. CST today, there are only 142.8 million votes accounted for if you look at the election results.
Very strange. Listen, I've talked about this. We are led to believe that 25 million people registered to vote this election cycle. Yet, Donald Trump, if you told me before the election that Donald Trump would get 3 million less votes than he got in 2020, I would say he literally has 0% chance to win. I would have said that. But yet we're led to believe that Kamala Harris got 16 to 17 million less votes than Joe Biden got. We're led to believe that Donald Trump got 3 million less votes. Where did those 20 million voters go? We're supposed to be led to believe that they sat this one out. And I'm sorry, I'm just asking the question, where did all these votes go? Where did they go? Where did these voters go? They're just sitting on their couch? I asked that question on Wednesday. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and it's more than 20 million. If you account for the 19 million no-shows and the 25 or so million supposed new registrants, that's a 44 million vote spread that is just unaccounted for.
And we're led to believe, correct me if I'm wrong, we're led to believe that this was the most interactive and the most reach for any presidential election in our lifetime. The stats certainly don't prove that. So you bring up a really good point. I am not a conspiracy theorist. I am not asking for a forensic audit. I just want some answers. I want some answers for somebody that can give me some answers, whether it be a Secretary of State. I want some answers. That's all. We're not going to storm the Capitol. We're not asking to overthrow a free and fair election. We're not going to attack police officers with their own batons. No, we're not doing any of that stuff, are we? And it is interesting, isn't it, and this gets me so damn pissed off. that all that talk about election integrity and the Democrats are cheating and these elections are rigged, where are all these stupid buffoons? Because that's what you are. You are an imbecile if you still think Trump won the 2020 election. You are an imbecile with a pea brain. But yet Donald Trump, all of a sudden it's not rigged. Same thing in 2016. He wins, no talk about an election being rigged. In 2020, everything was rigged. But now all of a sudden, everything went great. It was a free and fair election. How stupid can you MAGA buffoons be? I guess that's a rhetorical question. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Juan. Juan is next up on PTL. Hi, Juan.
Hey, how you doing, brother?
Good.
Hey, so I just kind of want to bring a point here because I think you're absolutely right when it comes to these MAGA idiots thinking they know anything about the economy and voting on, hey, I feel like prices are so high, I can't handle it, and the president controls all of this, as if Joe Biden or Donald Trump had a valve on the Resolute desk that controls the price of oil or the price of eggs at the store. So for me, somebody who's like fact-based, like I feel like you are, it's so frustrating to see that, you know, Donald Trump comes out and says, hey, the way that I control prices is by drilling more oil, even though we're drilling more oil than ever before.
Juan, you know what? You're right, Juan, and I want to let you continue. Sorry to interject, but I just want to pick your brain on something here. I think that the first week Donald Trump takes office, Republicans will all of a sudden make it sound like this is the best economy we've ever had. As soon as he takes office, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's a sale. It's just they're just selling an idea, right? That's all they're doing. They're selling an idea, and the same way that I would say that Kamala Harris really doesn't have the power to build 3 million homes or whatever she said. Donald Trump doesn't have the power to tell these publicly traded companies that answer to their shareholders, you need to drill more oil. If they even one time went to read one of their quarterly statements that they post on their investor relations sites, they would know that these companies have zero interest.
Juan, you're correct.
I
agree with you, what you're saying. But Juan, here's another interesting point, which is these MAGA Republicans, they don't seem to understand cause and effect. For example, the war in the Ukraine, which, by the way, Donald Trump says it's going to be over within 24 hours. Okay, so January 21st, if the war in the Ukraine is over, I'll give Donald Trump credit for that. But that won't happen. You know, what's going on in the Middle East, coming out of a pandemic. These MAGA Republicans must all have Alzheimer's because they don't understand cause and effect. And they also don't understand, if you want to talk about nothing happened under Donald Trump, we had peace everywhere. It's funny because we lost millions of Americans under a global pandemic. Last I checked, that was created in China. Going by these dumb, idiot, moron MAGA Republicans, I could use the same argument. Well, China didn't do it under Barack Obama. They were afraid under Barack Obama, but they did it under Donald Trump. This global pandemic would have never happened if we had a Democrat as president. Now, obviously, I would never say that, but I'm just going by the stupid MAGA logic when they say Vladimir Putin would have never invaded Ukraine if Donald Trump was president. The stuff that's been going on in the Middle East for decades, Hamas would have never done that if Joe Biden, if Donald Trump was the president and Joe Biden wasn't the president. They're some of the dumbest people that America has to offer.
Yeah, they just voted for a guy who wears like 8 layers of makeup and blowjobs the microphone. That's what they did.
That's true. That's what he did. You're right. He did simulate that, my friend. Thank you for the phone call. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Jack. Jack is next up on PTL. What's up, Jack?
Hey, Brian. What's going on, man?
Not much.
Hey, listen. I'm staying on the topic of the where are the votes thing, and there, I'm happy there are some people out there that are looking into it. Brian Tyler Cohen did a thing last night on a live. And, I trust the people in our democratic process that they're going, like people like Raskin and stuff like that, they're definitely going to look into this. But I just want to discuss some of the inconsistencies, man. I mean, you have like we could look at early voter turnout. It shattered all records. And then you break that down and it's 47% Republican and 45% Democrat. So there wasn't a lack of people wanting to go vote. And what we're left to believe is these people that are registered Democrats, if you look at the Republican, their top points are immigration and the economy. And then you look at the Democrats and it's, democracy and, women's rights and healthcare. And I'm supposed to believe that these people didn't have an opinion on any of that. Like these people didn't say, all right, well, I'm a Democrat, but I don't agree with Kamala Harris. I don't like the way she was appointed or whatever. and then went and cast a vote for Trump.
Yeah.
Like these people just apparently just disappeared. And it's a statewide problem because there's millions of votes missing from each different state. So it's like these people just all had the bright idea to say, I'm going to sit this one out. I'm not going to have an opinion. And when a Democrat, when you're talking about democracy, they're not going to sit home. I mean,
yeah, it's very strange. Listen, you bring up a lot of good points, Jack. It's very strange. And again, I want to reemphasize, I'm not saying the election was stolen. I'm not making the claims that these MAGA dopes make. But I will say this, I want some answers. It's a very fair question. I'm asking a question. Unlike the MAGA dopes out there that didn't ask questions, Donald Trump said he won the election in a landslide in 2020 and it was rigged. I'm not even close to being to that point. I just want some answers. And I think these are very fair calls that are coming in. We want answers. Give us some answers. I would love to know what Joe Biden or Kamala Harris thinks about this. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Jason. Jason is next up on PTL. Hey, Jason, what's going on, man? What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Good.
And I want to start off by saying, are you really surprised? Like I told you Wednesday, on right after Tuesday, Martin Luther King's dream died. People voted for the color of his skin, not the character of his content of his character.
Can I ask you something though? I haven't really talked about skin color when it came to this election, and maybe I'm wrong. I want to get your thoughts on this, but just hear me out on this real quick, and I want to get your thoughts. Okay? So Hillary Clinton, as you know, white woman, she lost. Now we do know we have a lot more information on Donald Trump than we did back then, clearly, right? But I felt like one of the main reasons why Hillary lost, besides not campaigning well, I thought Kamala Harris campaigned much better than Hillary did, but I thought the fact that she was a woman played a large role. The reason why I haven't brought up race, and again, I could be wrong. This is just my opinion as a white man. This is my opinion. I'm not sure that race played a role here. I think what played more of a role is that Kamala Harris is a woman, and I'm not sure that this country is ready to vote in a woman. And the reason why I say this is because Barack Obama was elected twice as a black man, which I thought was a great thing. I wanted her to win. You know my side on this. But I don't think it was as much race as maybe more about the fact that she's a woman. What are your thoughts on that? Am I wrong?
My point is not even to worry about Kamala because she did a great job for 3 months of jumping in the race. My point is that because Donald Trump was a white man, and let's look at his character. Nobody voted for Trump because of his character. You hear Republicans say it all the time. Oh, I don't like what he says. I don't like what he does, but I just like his policy.
Right.
So they didn't vote for his character.
Right.
And so that's what I was talking about, the Martin Luther King dream.
I got
Remember,
you.
he says, I have a dream that people will be not see the color of our skin, but the character of our personality.
Right.
Well, guess what? America just voted for his color, not for his character. And last but not least, and I want you to hear me clearly on this, and hear me very clearly. Black people, women, don't have full rights. And so what you're saying about transgender, I do understand. It's none of our business. But let's think about it for a second. Transgender won't be marketable because WNBA ain't marketable. The NBA has to subsidize them.
Yeah.
But the point I'm saying more than anything, this what makes it left and right, because everybody doesn't have rights like the upper echelon. They would take it out on the it's always the same thing. A bully takes it out on the soft, and the softer one takes it on the other one. So what it is that because people feel they don't have rights, they take it out on the transgender or the LGBTQ community.
That might be true. Yeah, no, I hear you, my friend.
Yeah.
Good call. I hear you. And I agree with you on a lot of what you just said. And I know there's a lot of women of color, well, a lot of people, minorities in this country that are upset. They wanted to see history made, and that didn't happen. Instead, we got a 34-count felon adjudicated rapist. Says a lot about where this country's at. And if people want to finger point and people want to say, wow, this is a mandate. I mean, I've heard people make that comment time and time again. Still, almost half the country hates Donald Trump. So this isn't a mandate. It's not like he won the popular vote by 100 million votes. That would be a mandate. This isn't a mandate. If anything, it's where we are at as a country, where so many people who went to the voter booth have no problem voting in somebody who is a despicable human being. Let's just call it for what it is. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Obi. Obi is next up on PTL. Hi, Obi.
Hi, Brian.
What's on your mind today?
I'm calling. I've been watching you for a while. This is my first time calling.
Thank you.
But I'm calling because the slip that you read about that I had heard and I was on the news.
Right.
And that bothers me.
Sure.
And also, I'm trying to figure out why is it that when I just can't figure out why women would vote for Donald Trump.
Listen,
He
I
has
can't
no
figure.
respect.
You're right. I can't figure out why women would vote for Donald Trump. I can't figure out why anybody in the trans community or anybody that is gay would vote for Donald Trump. Why somebody that would be a brave man or woman who served or is serving would vote for Donald Trump. Listen, I can't figure out why anybody. I mean, I've had conversations with people that I actually respect, that I think are intelligent people that voted for Donald Trump, and I keep hearing generalizations. Oh, well, that Kamala, she's stupid. I can't. These are smart people that I'm talking to that make these generalizations about Kamala to try to excuse them voting for an adjudicated rapist. And it really disappoints me. And I think a lot of it is misinformation, right-wing media, whether it be X, what Elon Musk has done, what social media has done in general, Newsmax, OAN, Fox News. I'm just very disheartened that there are so many people out there that are not smart enough to understand the threat that Donald Trump is to this country.
But what I think...
Yeah, go ahead. You're still there.
What I think is that if what they did, these threatened the black people
right
in the country, I think that it's going to cause a big problem over here in the States.
Well, I think it will, but it will, Obi. But here's the thing, and I have to be honest, right? We have to be honest. I don't know who's responsible. I don't know who's responsible for sending these texts out. Here's what we do know. Donald Trump will not disavow. He won't say anything on Truth Social. He won't say anything at a press conference. He'll make it about himself. He won't. He's not a leader. We know that. And he, stand back and stand by. He'd probably tell the people who are responsible, we don't know yet, but whoever's responsible for these messages, please stand back and stand by. Because that's who Donald Trump is. Doesn't that matter to some of you MAGA dopes? Doesn't it matter to you that people are sending text messages to African Americans across the country telling them they're going to be picked up and sent to plantations? And the only response I see from the MAGA world is, oh, that was a lefty who did that. That's not the first thing out of their mouth isn't, boy, this is horrible. It's terrible. That's the first thing that came to my mind. It wasn't blame Trump or blame MAGA. It was, boy, this is terrible. I feel so horrible for the people that got this text message. Shouldn't that tell you something about Donald Trump and his base, who they are? 702-221. Thank you for the call, by the way. 702-221-7283. Let's talk to Trey. Trey is next on PTL. Hi, Trey.
Hey, Brian. How are you doing?
Hey, good. What's on your mind today?
Well, a lot, actually. So I guess the big question is, why did this happen? Why did people vote for this person? And I think the most general thing to say is it's capitalism. Capitalism needs fascism, and I think we need to come to grips with that. And I think we need to follow the path down the likelihood of what's going to happen. And capitalism wants you to shut up, clock in, stop asking for an extra day off, stop organizing into unions.
Right.
So I think it's inevitable, and I think that all you got to do is follow the money.
Yeah.
Look at Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Jeff Bezos. They grease the wheels, and then you go over to Joe Rogan. And here's my main point with this. Joe Rogan is responsible right under capitalism. And then, of course, I think, first off, you need to blame the people that voted for Trump, right? That's the first people that you need to blame.
Can I ask you about Joe Rogan? And you could tell me whether you agree or not. Howard Stern started Shock Jock Radio. He's no Joe Rogan. Howard Stern, to me, is 100 times more intelligent. But Joe Rogan, in my personal opinion, is your typical white, middle-aged meathead. I don't think he's very intelligent, but he is very opinionated. And in this day and age, if you have a large platform and you're very opinionated and you're decent on the air, he has a huge following. He has the most popular podcast right now going. But I do believe that Joe Rogan has done a disservice to this country. He has a right to vote for whoever he wants to vote for. I do find it very interesting, though, very interesting for you right-wing MAGA conspiracy theorist dopes out there, that all of a sudden he endorses Donald Trump hours after Elon Musk interviews him. Are you meaning to tell me that that's just a coincidence and that Elon Musk didn't buy him?
Did you hear the clip where he said, "Well, I guess we were wrong about the election"? Did you see that?
I did not see that.
I guess there wasn't cheating, and they started laughing.
Yeah, it's not funny. Yeah,
you should look at the clip.
I will look at the clip.
Funny.
No, you're right. It's not funny at all. They all know that Donald Trump is full of crap, unless you have what for brains, and sadly, many in Donald Trump's base don't have a brain. But many of the people out there that have been talking about voter fraud and voter integrity and how the elections were stolen, the Sean Hannitys, the Laura Ingrams, the Tucker Carlsons, the Mark Levins, listen, these are all despicable human beings. They knew that Donald Trump was full of crap. They still know it to this very day. All of a sudden, everything went fair. How stupid are some of you people? Well, Trump won the 2020 election, but when he wins, everything's fair. Again, some of the dumbest people that America has to offer. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Again, that number, 702-221-7283 is the number to call. All right, let's see here. Who are we going to next? Let's go to Mark. Mark is next up on PTL. Hey, Mark, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. I have two things, one on the Supreme Court and one on where these votes went for the Democrats. On MSNBC, some poll people, officials, were stating that all these bomb threats cleared out 4 to 5 hour lines, such as in Philly. Yeah. There were 5 hour lines, and after the bomb threat, there was no one there. They didn't come back.
Yeah.
Next thing, Supreme Court, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the future Attorney General that was parading around on MSNBC and on Newsmax stated that Thomas and Alito will be retiring, and Trump is going to pick 2 more even further right-wing MAGA judges. Now, here's my question to you. Do you remember what happened to Ruth Bader Ginsburg? She decided not to retire. She died, and Trump picked a MAGA.
That can't happen again, and as much as I respect
now,
Ruth
what
Bader,
about
she can't...
Sotomayor, who has health issues?
Yeah.
If she stays on until Trump gets on, then she's another moron.
I agree. I agree with that, Mark. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a wonderful woman. She has an incredible legacy, but she made a very big mistake. She should have retired. And she made a mistake. I don't think she did it intentionally. She was a great woman. But because of that, the country has suffered. The overturning of Roe versus Wade is a perfect example of what I am talking about, Mark, and I think it's a great point that you make. Let's go to Mathan. Mathan is next up on PTL. Hi, Mathan. What's going on?
Hi, Brian. How's everything going? I hope you're feeling better than I am.
Well, you know what? It's tough, but we'll get through it.
I just wanted to say one thing about why some of the votes went towards Trump and not Harris. I worked at the polls for 4 days, and I witnessed one person specifically that came in with her husband, and her husband came in and said, I want to make sure that she votes for the right person. And he looked over her shoulder the whole time, and I know that he had already voted for Trump because I saw his application, and they fill out an application when you come in,
right,
and they put down whether they're Republican or Democrat.
Yeah.
And I think she may have been coerced, and that's only one instance.
Right.
I'm thinking how many more around the country, how many millions of more around the country were coerced by their husbands to vote for someone that they didn't want to vote for.
You know,
that really scared me.
Yeah, you know, I hear where you're going with that. And, you know, I talked about this last week where Charlie Kirk, who, again, a despicable white supremacist sympathizer, went on Twitter and was basically insinuating that women should do what their husbands tell them to do. He made the case that, well, some women are going to be lying to their husbands for, you know, in fear of retribution. And the women should be able to allowed to vote for whoever they want to vote for. And let me tell you something else. And now I'm speaking to all the women in this country. Okay. If you have a husband and you are in fear that there might be retribution of some sort, if he found out that you voted for somebody he doesn't support, then maybe you should break up with him and maybe you should go your separate ways, because that sounds like a buffoon and just a bad person. But sadly, my dear, you might be right. I'm sure that there are women out there that were probably afraid, that were probably in fear of retribution if they went into that voter booth and they voted for somebody that their husband didn't approve of. I think you're very valid with your thoughts on that, and that's a sad relationship, and it's a sad place we are at in our country. Let's go to Vivian. Vivian's next. What's up, Vivian?
Hi, Brian. How are you doing today?
Good. What's on your mind?
Okay, I know everybody keep on like blaming Kamala that she didn't do this right, she didn't do that right. She did everything to me that she possibly could do. She gave policy. She was going to help everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I said, and then you look on the other side, he wasn't going to do nothing for nobody.
Right.
So for you to turn on her is just totally
I think that's unfair. As I've said before, and I'll say again, I think, and you're absolutely right, Vivian. I think that Kamala Harris overperformed. What a great job she did in that debate. She did everything she could. I have a lot of respect for her and her family. I think you're absolutely right. I do put a little bit of blame on Joe Biden. The more I think about it, should have bowed out a little bit earlier. They needed more time. But Vivian, your point is very well taken, and you're right. Let's go to Michelle. Michelle is next. What's up, Michelle?
Hi, Brian. How are you doing?
Good. What's on your mind, Michelle?
This is just my opinion, but I don't think he really won the election. I think there's something funny about it. Because remember, he said that people only had to vote one time.
I remember the
and then
statements.
they didn't have to vote after that.
I remember the statements that he made, but I'm going to be frank with you, Michelle. I don't think we can do what Trump did in 2020. Now, if somebody can provide, I want questions answered. I think that's very fair, right? But unless somebody can show me absolute evidence and proof that there was widespread voter fraud, we can't do what they did. But I think your questions are valid. Where did these 20 million people go? Did they decide to sit it out? Very strange, very fair to ask questions. But now, I'm not willing to say that the election was stolen, and I'm not going to go that route until I see evidence.
But remember, he also said in another one of his rallies that he had a big secret, but he couldn't say anything about it.
Yeah, well, I don't know what that is. He says a lot of stupid things and a lot of things that are off the top crazy, but I don't think we can take a stupid comment or something that he says and turn that to the election was stolen. I think it's very fair to ask questions, Michelle. It's very, very fair to ask questions, and I'm going to continue to do that. I want some of these questions answered. Let's go to Stacy. Stacy's next. What's up, Stacy?
Hi, Brian. I have a question in regards to him. Okay, he states that he's going to deport all these illegals.
Yeah.
Does that include his wife, Melania?
That's a really good question.
I mean, seriously.
Right. So
thinking about it.
Right. So what he has characterized and what he has said, which I think is outrageous and ridiculous, and I hope it doesn't happen, is that if you are undocumented, regardless of whether your kids were born in this country or not, he wants to deport everybody. Now, I think that is not feasible. I don't think we have the resources to do it, number one. Number two, I think it's absurd. It's ridiculous. It's dangerous, and our economy is going to suffer for it. With that being said, I'm not saying people shouldn't be concerned and worried, because what Donald Trump says, we should absolutely take what he says seriously, even though he's a complete imbecile. So I don't know what's going to happen. It'll be very interesting to see, and I really feel for so many in this country that are decent, good people that are worried. So I think it's a very fair question to ask. All right. I'm going to take a few more quick calls, then I got to go to break, and then our guests are going to be coming up next. Let's go to Barbara, or I'm sorry, Patricia. Patricia's next. Hi, Patricia.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm calling. I've been very disheartened since the election. I worked the elections all the way through, early elections, even on election day. And so I was really, really so disappointed. And I keep thinking to myself.
I am so sorry to do this to you, my dear, but your phone, we had a bad connection there, so I apologize. Call back again on Monday. I almost said call back tomorrow. Brian's not going to be in studio tomorrow. Brian needs a couple days off. I don't know why I'm speaking in third person. But anyway, no. So here's what we are going to do. We're going to take a quick break. Maybe we'll have some time to take some phone calls towards the end of the show. But we're going to take a quick 90-second break. And listen, all these concerns that people have are very, very valid. There are people that have jobs that are worried about their job security. Even people that are in the adult entertainment industry that are worried that the right-wing evangelicals are going to go after them. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by two lovely ladies that are in that field as OnlyFans models. One who is a pastor turned OnlyFans model, another who is a former teacher turned OnlyFans model. What do they think about Donald Trump? Are they in fear for their autonomy as a woman? Are they in fear for what people are going to say and tell them to do with their own bodies? And are they in fear for their own industry? We'll talk to both of them when we come back. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
All right, welcome back. Wrapping up the final segment of what has been a very busy news week, that is for sure. So listen, there's people in a lot of different industries that are worried. They're worried for a lot of different reasons. They might be worried about their job. They might be worried about the abortion issue. Many women in this country. I've talked a lot about the evangelical right, including House Speaker Mike Johnson, who has his son as an accountability partner when it comes to pornography. Just really bizarre, weird stuff, right? And as I've said before, a lot of these people that claim to be anti-pornography are usually the people that are watching porn 24/7. And guess what? I don't judge them for that. Do whatever you want. But a lot of people out there that are worried. And the two lovely ladies that are joining me on the show right now, as I introduce them, Nicole Mitchell is a former pastor turned OnlyFans model and life coach. She's made a lot of money doing what she enjoys to do, which I think is awesome. And Courtney Tilia used to be a teacher, and now she is also an OnlyFans model, and both are very successful women. But I want to hear from both of them what they think about how this could affect them and their industry when it comes to Donald Trump winning. Ladies, great to see both of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Good to see both of you. How are you?
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yes, all right.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for being on. All right. So, Courtney, let me start with you. We talked a little bit a month or so ago about this website, handsoffmyporn.com. We talked about the dangers if Donald Trump does get back into office. Unfortunately, right now, he is. How do you think this could affect your industry and what you do for a living?
I mean, I don't even know that it's a could, but a will and a when. He's made it very, very clear that there's anti-porn legislation that started in 2016 when he first took office. him within Project 2025 has made it very clear that there will be anti-porn legislation. And so it will impact us. And I don't think that people realize the impact of this vote, not only on porn, but nationwide on every area of our lives. And people don't realize that it will impact their rights on what they can watch, what they consume in the privacy of their own home. And so it is a big deal. And porn workers, we're talking about OnlyFans, we're talking about so many different subscription-based platforms from camming. You're talking about millions and millions and millions of people globally that are producing this kind of content. So not only the people who are producing it, but the people who are consuming it will all be impacted.
Crazy. Nicole, I guess I'll ask you the same question. How do you feel like this could affect you, your family, and what you do for work?
Yeah, it's pretty horrific. Like I was reading through part of Project 2025, just like, because I want to hear directly from the source, not just hearsay. And it literally says in there to not only ban porn, but to imprison anyone who makes it, anyone who consumes it, including criminalizing any tech companies that distribute it. Like it's so extreme in nature, which, okay, hopefully would never happen to that extreme. But the fact that they are so comfortable writing such extremist documents and like getting everyone on board, Trump signed off on it, JD Vance signed off on it, like all these people of massive influence and leadership are coming together, rallying around, and it does terrify me. Like what will that come down to at the end of the day? Because what people don't realize is when you quote unquote ban porn and try to be anti-sex trafficking, what you end up doing is punishing sex workers, right? Shutting down everyday content creators like Courtney, like me, like so many of us who use this as a way to provide for our families. So you're punishing everyday good citizens who aren't doing anything illegal, and you use it under the moral guise of protecting the American family and economy.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Go ahead.
The other thing too is it never makes it go away. You're not making porn stop. You're not making it so it disappears, the same as we witnessed in the abortion ban, is that you haven't stopped abortion. You've made it extremely unsafe. Women are already dying from this ban. And that's the same thing with the porn ban. You're not going to actually stop it. Now you're making it extremely unsafe for the creators, the consumers, and
let's talk about that. That's a really good point, Courtney. So let's talk about both of those issues. It seems to me that those that want to ban abortion are usually the middle-aged white dudes who don't know what it's like to be pregnant. But the porn issue is a different issue, right? And you guys can tell me if you disagree with me or not. But it appears to me that those that go on the biggest mountain and claim how bad pornography is, and are usually, not all the time, but usually are the same people that watch a lot of porn, right? That's what it appears to me. It seems like they're the biggest hypocrites in the world. And Nicole, we've talked about this too, about those on the far right, the evangelical right, that say how bad it is to cheat on your wife, how bad it is to do that. And usually they're the ones that are doing the cheating, right? Nicole, I guess I'll start with you. I mean, do you agree with that? It just seems like the people that claim to be anti-porn are usually the ones that watch the most porn, consume the most porn. And so many people out there that say it's so horrible to be gay usually are the ones that are afraid to come out and say that they're gay.
To this day, my childhood pastor watches all of my stories religiously. And I would not be surprised if he subscribed to my account under an anonymous name. And this is the man who used to preach from the pulpit how horrible sexual sin of anything was. And he's religiously following me in all of my content. And it used to make me so mad. But that's just the reality. I think the people who tend to be the most against something are the most addicted to it. And so they take out their issue with it and try to make it everyone else's problem instead of taking radical responsibility for themselves.
Courtney, what do you say?
We have so much shame in this country, so much shame when it comes to sex and sexuality and desires and passion and pleasure. And so it's easier to shame people, judge people, make it illegal than to just come out and say, I like porn, I like sex, I'm gay, I'm whatever. It's easier because as a society, we've accepted that very clearly. Look at the political vote. People are very into hate and making things illegal, making things wrong versus just saying and owning who they are and what they want.
I guess
And
the
here's
question.
the thing. So I just want to like explain for people who are listening how it actually makes it unsafe for people like us. So the beautiful thing about platforms like OnlyFans is it gives the power to us. Courtney and I can work from the safety of our own homes. We pick our hours, we pick our rates, we can block anyone who's an asshole to us. Like we are in total control of our safety, our livelihood, and our income. When you ban or make these platforms illegal or this work illegal, then women who need to provide for their families have to go underground. They have to do in-person work, which is more unsafe and way more criminalized in our country. So you say you're anti-sex trafficking, but you're actually risking more people to become trafficked because you're forcing them to go underground instead of letting it be above ground with protected measures and trusting people that they know what they're doing and they're doing it well.
Yeah, such a good point that you just made. That's why I've always felt that prostitution should be legalized, because it's safe for the women. There's security there. They have to take tests. From a health perspective, it's safer, and the government can make money off it. But as we know, most people on the right are against legalizing prostitution. So let's go back to talking about what is a very emotional and touchy subject, which is the topic of abortion. Right now in this country, if I'm not mistaken, 20 states, abortion is illegal. In some of those states, no exceptions for rape or incest. So I want to ask both of you this question. Courtney, I'll start with you. Do you believe now that Donald Trump was elected that eventually there will be an abortion ban throughout the country? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. Yes, there will be. It's very, again, laid out again in Project 2025. And I posted a post on my Instagram and I'm at 950 hateful comments telling me I'm a loser, I'm an idiot, all these different things. And they're like, what don't you get? He said he's against Project 2025 or he's against a federal abortion ban, but he's also very clearly stated that he will put those things in place and he will follow that. And what people don't understand is that abortion is not just an unwanted pregnancy. These are people who aren't able, that miscarry. A DNC is an abortion. There's viable pregnancies that all of a sudden they get to 20 weeks and the intestines, the baby would never survive and they need an abortion. People just don't understand that an abortion is healthcare, and you will witness more and more women dying.
Yes.
And there's a simple solution to it, but you're going to allow women to die because you're going to make it illegal.
Yeah, I agree. Nicole, what do you say to that?
It's been pretty horrific. There's been this mantra going around since Trump has won the election, which is men saying, your body, my choice.
Oh,
it's so horrific, and they're vilely blatant about it. Like they are gleeful to know, like, we control your body. And I saw a woman tweet, like, all I want for Christmas is a president who's not a rapist. And Andrew Tate wrote back, request denied, I'm next, bitch. Right. The audacity and the grossness of so many men who are actually so happy to be controlling women's well-being, women's bodies, women's freedom, women's autonomy should show why we should be so alarmed. It's not just like, oh, we're getting rid of abortion because we're pro-life. It's like we actually get some sick joy out of controlling your bodies.
Horrible. I agree. Just horrible. So I want to ask you both this. I think there's a lot of reasons why Trump won. But some are saying one of the main reasons is that, Kamala Harris did not get the female vote. In fact, Joe Biden got more support from women in this country than Kamala Harris did. Now, I'm broken by that. I don't understand why. So I want you both I'll start with you again, Courtney. Talk to the women out there in this country. What would you say to them? So many of the women in this country who apparently voted for Donald Trump. What would you say to them?
Honestly, a lot of them are friends of mine, and it's heartbreaking to see. And what I'm witnessing is that it's a lot of our own trauma, our trauma of trying to be accepted by men, of trying to it's simply that. It is simply our trauma made a vote in acceptance of that. And so initially, I want to be angry, but the truth is that we need to help these women to heal, so that we can choose ourselves, so we can choose our safety, so that we can make better informed decisions, whether it's voting an election, whether it's a relationship with a partner, showing up for kids, the world. We as women need to heal. And so that would be my thing. And that is what I'm going to be doing from this time forward, along with my OnlyFans, is continuing to help women to heal so that we can do better in the world.
Nicole, what do you say to that?
I would say it's internalized misogyny. It's one thing for men to vote against women's rights. It's a whole other level of heartbreak for women to vote against women's rights and women's well-being. And so I realized seeing how many white women voted for Trump to me just shows the level of internalized misogyny that they aren't even aware of. Some are very hyper aware of it. But you also look at Black women who voted, 91% of them voted against Trump. And so as always, this is why we should always be listening to the voices of the marginalized. They are in the belly of the beast. They know what's up. They are not duped by the manipulation, the illusion, the lies. They know exactly what's up. And so if you're wondering, if any woman is listening to this and maybe you're like, I don't know what's true, what's not, listen to Black women, listen to queer people, listen to trans people, listen to the voices of immigrants. Like they are telling the truth because they aren't going to win anything from it. They're the least privileged, the least believed, the least resourced, trying to tell you what's up. They know what's up. Pay attention to them.
Yeah, very well said. And as I said before to both of you, and I'll say again, I appreciate anybody that is doing what they do for a living and they enjoy what they do and they're successful and they're making a lot of money doing it, so long as it's legal. Absolutely, both of you. You both have families, you're good mothers, and you provide for your families. And I appreciate the fact that you enjoy what you do. And it's just sad to me that, and your concern is well taken. And I hear both of you. There's a lot of people in this country that are very concerned for a lot of different reasons, and they have a right to be concerned. And, both of you will always have the platform to speak your mind on this show. And, I appreciate both of you coming on. And if any of you have the last word, anything else you want to add, feel free before we let you go.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you for making a space for women's voices, right? For letting us speak about our own experience, and for the women who are listening. Like Courtney said, I used to be very conservative. I used to be Republican. I'm not anymore. So I know what it feels like to be on both sides. And I will honestly say, as uncomfortable as it makes me to admit this, I just didn't know. I just didn't know. This is so horrific. I did not know racism existed until my late 20s because I had been taught my whole life it doesn't exist. And anyone who says it does, they're just pulling the R card, is literally what I was taught. So when there was ever any sign of racism, I was taught that's individual and random. That's it. I didn't realize how systemic it was, how overt it was, how evil it was. So if you're someone like me, where like, I don't understand why me voting for Trump was a wrong thing, just again, do your research. Google, like, literally Google, why is it bad to vote for Trump? Because you just have to start somewhere. And I wish when I realized this in my late 20s, I had learned it so much earlier. So it's not too late to learn. It's not too late to change your mind. And there's a lot of people here to support you on that journey if you want.
Yeah. Courtney, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, as angry as we may be, I think the thing that we got to do now is actually love people and help them to see different. And I'm not saying that's easy because I am feeling the rage like many people. But I think us raging and anger and yelling at people only makes them a more extreme version of what they already are. And so coming to people with compassion and love and being open to potentially showing them something different, showing them what maybe they didn't see with the tariffs. So many people I'm seeing, they're like, oh, I thought the other country was paying the tariffs. Like simple things like that, where we can like lovingly educate people so that, again, we have to be able to move forward in this together.
Courtney, very well said. I'm going to try to take your advice on that, because sometimes I do get frustrated, and sometimes I do yell at the callers sometimes, and I do get angry. I need to work on that. But hey, the good news is it's Friday, right? Both of you, give out your OnlyFans pages real quickly so that we can promote your pages. I want you guys to have as many OnlyFans members as possible and continue your success. So go ahead and give out that information.
You can find mine at Mitchell Nicole, MITCHELLNIKOLE. Come say hi. I'd love to have you.
Thank you. Courtney, go ahead.
And mine is Courtney with a C, COURTNEY and TILLIA.
There you go. Two very beautiful, intelligent, and strong women. We need more women like this out there with their voices heard. I appreciate you, Nicole and Courtney. Thank you so much for coming on. And this was a lot of fun. Let's do it again soon. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. There you go. Nicole Mitchell and Courtney Tilia. There are a lot of important issues in this country. There's a lot of women that are worried, a lot of women that are afraid, a lot of women that are scared. There are a lot of people in this country that are good, hardworking people. Yes, they're not documented. They have kids. They have families. Imagine how frightened they are today. Waking up, not knowing, am I going to be deported? Are my kids going to stay? Are they going to be deported? Imagine that. Can we have some empathy for a moment? I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. A lot of people in this country, millions and millions of people that are very worried. They're very scared. There are a lot of women in this country that are worried that they're not going to be able to make decisions with their own bodies anymore. Sadly, some women in certain states cannot. There's a lot of people in this country that are afraid. And I think their opinions and their feelings are very valid. Listen, I go on this show every day and I try to separate fact from fiction. I go on this show every day and I try to call out the bigotry and the hatred and the lies, many of which put forth by those on the far right, many of those put forth by Donald Trump and the bigotry and the hatred. And it's why I spoke about this mass text that so many African Americans in the country got called the N-word. And I don't know where it came from. And I'm not going to sit here and make an assumption that it came from a MAGA supporter. I don't know where it came from. What I do know is that it's wrong. What I do know is that it's disgusting. It should have no place in our society. So if you're on the right, we probably disagree on a lot. But I ask you to do one thing for me today, and I'm speaking to MAGA supporters right now. I'm asking you to do one thing for me. You don't have to. I'm just asking. If you have a social media account, just go on there. Don't attack the left. Don't attack anybody specifically. Can you just go on social media and say, this text is wrong? This is wrong, okay? Just say it's wrong. And you want the people who are responsible for this to be brought to justice. This is wrong. Is that so hard for you to do? That's all I'm asking. You can support your rapist felon. That's up to you. You have the right as an American to vote for who you want to vote for. Now, we might disagree. Can't you just go on social media and say this is awful? And you feel for the minorities in this country, particularly in this case, African Americans that got a text message as they woke up today. They're being called the N-word and they're going to be sent to plantations. Can we just all agree as Americans, if you are a decent person? Obviously, there are some people in this country that are not. There are some people in this country that are bigoted in nature, that are racist. They laugh at this stuff. They think it's funny. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to some of the Republicans out there that I hope do have a moral compass. Can we please call that out as Americans? Stop blaming one side or the other, because I haven't when it comes to this issue. All I've said is called for MAGA Republicans and Donald Trump to call this stuff out. They haven't. Many of them haven't. So if you're going to do one thing for decency and humanity, can you do that? Hey, this is wrong. We need to find the people who are responsible for this. This isn't what I stand for. This isn't where my moral compass is at. This is wrong. I hope that when I hear from certain people, they say this is just the beginning. Boy, I hope they're wrong on that as well. We shouldn't attack people based on sexuality or what the color of their skin is. I base it on your character. Do you have character? Do you believe that we should treat everybody as equals? I am very disappointed in the outcome of this election. I'm not going to be storming the Capitol. I'm not going to be screaming cheating. It's okay to ask questions. I'm very disappointed. But life goes on. My radio show goes on. And I'm going to continue to do what I do every day. And that is call out the bigotry, call out the hatred, call out the lies, and stand for humanity and stand for facts and separate facts versus fiction. It's what I've always done. It's what I will continue to do. You have my promise on that. So on Monday, we have a special guest joining us in studio. His name is Jay Bloom. He is one of the biggest Democrat donors in the country. Then he turned to a Robert F. Kennedy Jr. supporter. Then he turned to a Donald Trump supporter. I'm going to try to pick his brain and find out why. That's what we do on this show. Try to find out why. Why would anybody vote for Donald Trump? It's what I'll continue to do here. Here's what I asked before we let you go. This is an independently owned radio show. What does that mean? It means we rely on good people like yourselves to keep the lights on, for lack of a better term. First thing you can do to help me out is check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. Again, that's pushingthelimits.live. Second thing, sign up for my YouTube page, @PTL Radio Show. You can subscribe for free. We love the engagement. We want to see the likes. We want to see the comments. Help us out on YouTube with that engagement. Number 3, we do sell merchandise on there on pushingthelimits.live. Shirts, hats, beanies, you name it. We sell it for very affordable prices. We appreciate your support. If you haven't already bought something, we ask that you do so. If you don't want to buy merchandise, we have a donate button right on the front page there, pushingthelimits.live. That donate button will take 2 minutes of your time. $5, $10, $20 a month, whatever you can afford. We greatly appreciate it. It helps us continue to do what we do on this show. Please check out that website again, pushingthelimits.live, and check out the official gaming bar of the Pushing the Limits radio show. It's Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. I was out there yesterday. What a phenomenal steak I had. What a great lunch. They have great promotions, including the Pass the Puck contest, where you can win up to $500 in free slot play, and other promotions as well. Please check them out. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. All right, everybody, I'm going to be watching some college hoops. I'm excited tonight. In person, some great basketball games here in Vegas. And I'm going to have a very soothing, relaxing weekend. I hope you all do the same. If not for my mental health, for yours. We will see you back same time, same place. Subscribe to the YouTube page, @PTL Radio Show. We will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's